This is Bailey here. Thanks again for joining me. Today we're talking more about hidden racism within reality competition shows. More specifically, this episode is going to focus on kind of like appropriation and how sometimes black creators or minority creators aren't properly credited for their work, or they're easily taken advantage of, unfortunately. So we're going to get into it. This is actually the series that kind of sparked me to want to speak on these things because it was frustrating. I watch a lot of reality competition shows, y'all, and sometimes, a lot of the times, I'm watching them alone. Uh, and so it's kind of hard to not have someone to say, did you see that? Did you see what just happened? Like, was that crazy, or is it just me? So this is kind of my space where I'm coming to say, like, was that crazy, or is it just me? Maybe it's just me. I guess we'll see. So this is the episode that really sparked it all and really made me say, like, wow, somebody needs to be talking about this, because it's not just reality competition. At the end of the day, a lot of times, a lot of notoriety, money, special educational opportunities, those kind of things come along with winning one of these competition shows. And for black people and minorities to be slighted is completely despicable. So we're focusing on Netflix series Next in Fashion, Season 1, Episode 4, and in a continuation, Episode 5. This is a series that focuses on fashion designers. They start out with 18 designers, and they're paired off in groups, so 9 groups at the start. And then at the end, I believe when there are either 2 or 3 groups left, they divide them up so that they are competing directly against one another. Now, this series aired on January 29th of 2020. A few months later, it was noted, or it was digested, that this would be canceled, that the series would be canceled. I'm not specifically sure why. It was a pretty good show, I must admit, although I feel like, obviously because we're speaking about it, I feel like some of the decisions that were made were completely biased and unfair. It was still pretty good to watch. And it did have a pretty good display of diversity. I can say those things about it, to be honest. So like I said, aired in January of 2020 with 10 seasons. 10 episodes. Woo, chow. This show is judged by Tan France, who is noted for being on Queer Eye, and Alexa Chung, who is apparently a stylist, celebrity, model, something like that. I had never heard of her before, but both of these judges are British, so maybe that's why I had never really heard of her prior to her hosting and judging this show. So these two kind of do both host, and they also both judge. I kind of like that structure that they have going for this show. In addition to Tan and Alexa, they have 2, or on some episodes 3 judges come on as guest judges. So the contestants aren't always judged by the singular opinions of Tan and Alexa. So for this episode, we're going to focus on Kitty and Farai. They are 2 designers that are from New York. Farai is actually originally from Zimbabwe, but both of these women are from New York, and they specialize kind of in the streetwear and the urban wear space. They are 2 black women, and Kitty is actually known for helping with the designing of FUBU, a popular brand, if some of y'all are younger, a popular brand back in like the 90s, in the early 2000s, as well as Rockaware. Same kind of time frame, same kind of feel to that brand. So I thought that was kind of funny and nostalgic and interesting about Kiki. I think they met when they were designing for a brand that Nicki Minaj put out, actually. So this episode focuses on streetwear, which is interesting because we're talking about this episode, these ladies had some trouble on this episode, but they're really into that space. This is actually a trend that I feel like comes up a lot on reality TV shows. There'll be like a specialty or a focus for the week, and there's like 1 or 2 people that are known for being really strong in that area, but they somehow fall short. So it's interesting to see how that plays out here. There's always like these really high expectations, and then maybe people don't live up to their name. I don't necessarily think that's the case here, but yet and still they face issues on this episode, which is why we're talking about it. So the teams have a day and a half to create 2 looks, one male and one female. On the second day, at the like half day mark or whatever, they set up the space and have this big fashion show, and all of the designers display their looks. So again, they're working in teams. They're creating 2 looks, for one for a male, one for a female. During the fashion show, display, the 2 female and male looks come out together. So usually they're pretty like cohesive. The judges want the contestants to present like a cohesive look for both male and female. So the guest judges for this episode are Jason Bolden, as well as Kirby Jean Raymond, and they both come on. It's interesting actually because Jason has another show that airs on Netflix shortly after Next in Fashion, where he is actually like the host for that show, or like the lead for that show, along with another man. So these are both 2 black males. Jason, again, is a celebrity stylist. It's kind of unclear whether or not he has a distinguished vote, but I believe that he does. So we'll go with that. And then Kirby as well, of Pierre Moss. And so where this episode gets really weird, Kiki and Farai, they have put together this look. I actually really liked the look, and I didn't expect that they would have trouble with this episode. The look is for the male, and I'll try to insert a picture. For the male, there's like a drop crotch overall look. The guy is like really working it. He has these dreads. It just like it works for him. And then the female look is like a kind of a hot pant, a really short, and then really, really high boots, like thigh-high boots that are denim. And so the overall look is kind of like this plum purple color, and denim is what both the male and the female are styled in. So the look does not go over very well with the judges because they feel like it's unfinished. During the filming, we can see Farai and Kiki kind of have a disagreement about whether or not they should hem off and finish the edges of this look. Kiki feels that they should not hem these edges, and that the raw look brings out the rawness and the urban feel of what streetwear should look like, while Farai feels like they do need to hem the edges of the clothing, and that it wouldn't take away from, you know, the look of the complete fit, yet it would add to it and make it feel polished. And so that's kind of interesting about, you know, how people view fashion, because I mean, it is streetwear at the end of the day. Like, it's not like they were given a challenge to create clothing for the Met Gala, you know, like, it's streetwear. So I see where Kiki's coming from. At the end of the day, though, during the judging, the judges bring up time and time again that they feel that their work is unfinished. They think that they could have hemmed those edges, at least in a few places. And they think that, you know, they're not up to par with the other designers in terms of having that polish and having that really cohesive and finished off look. So they take issue with that. Kiki responds saying, you know, that's intentional. I think one of the judges points out that maybe it's not meant to be intentional. And then there's a previous scene also during kind of the post-fashion show judging, where Kiki and Farai, you can tell they don't agree, but Kiki says, you know, everything is personal. This is not a trend. This is a culture. It's about evoking feeling and emotion, and I feel like we did that. So Farai and Kiki end up in the bottom 2, obviously, along with Claire and Adolfo. Claire is a mixed race woman. She's black and I think Korean, if I'm remembering correctly. So this takes an interesting twist. Now, when they're told to step forward, Farai and Kiki kind of look at each other like, what in the world is going on? I think Kiki even says, like, you gotta be kidding me. Because their look was not something that was worthy of being in the bottom 2, let alone being sent home. So the judges give their feedback, their criticism of their work, and Farai steps forward, and it's like she can't contain herself. She's just like, can I say something for a second? And they're like, yeah, sure, whatever. And I'm going to read this word for word because it's really important and really integral to actually how this plays out at the end. So Farai says, we were given streetwear and we designed from our perspective. And the thing that I've noticed in the fashion industry is that there's mostly only one voice heard. The high-end brands designers are taking ideas from us every single day. and it only becomes cool when it's high end. For a lot of us minorities, the underprivileged, we want to be heard, we want to be seen, but it's so hard to be seen. It's really frustrating because I look to designers like Kirby, I look to you, Jason, because you're in those spaces. And this is really impactful, I believe. It was impactful for me, and I related to it a lot, even though I'm not a fashion designer. And that just tells you right there that this is a topic that permeates across almost every different field, every different portion of our lives. And it's so easy for white people to miss, yet it's something that we have to confront on a daily. So I want to put emphasis on a few things that she said during that statement. She says, I've noticed in the fashion industry that there's mostly only one voice heard, referring to the voice of white people. This is so true, as with a lot of other industries. And it's unfortunate because a lot of the ideas and a lot of the inspiration for those voices are just watered down versions of minority voices. And she also notes that saying, and it only becomes cool when it's high end. And for us, being able to read through what she says, when she says high end, she means white. So it only becomes cool when it's white people that are doing those things, i.e. appropriation. So where I see this as an issue, yes, it's terrible, I think, to discredit someone or to take someone's idea or take that inspiration and not credit it. That's just a moral thing, but it comes down to a check. Black people are not able to profit off of a lot of ideas because they are stolen and then repurposed and refashioned or slightly tweaked to make them just appeasable enough for the Caucasian appetite. As with their designs, the judges felt that they needed to tailor their designs to suit what they thought streetwear was, or hem those edges to kind of, and for at least for Kiki felt that hemming those edges would have taken some of the urban flair away from that design. Yes, it would have done that, but it would have made it nice and appeasable, just cooled down enough, just blowed down enough to make it appeasable for the European appetite. So it's funny how Farai was able to phrase that so perfectly in this statement. Now, Jason follows up to her response, and he kind of validates what she says, and he says, you are absolutely right. I'm in those spaces. I'm in those rooms every day. I do have to deal with that. But what you have to do, and what I've learned you have to do, you have to occupy that space, occupy it well, and amplify it. Amplify your voice and to the point where you can't be ignored or watered down. And so he says that. Kirby follows up, and he has a lot to say as well, and he basically says, I couldn't even get a job in this industry. I was looking for work. I couldn't get a job in this industry, and that's what led me to create my brand, and that's why my brand exists today. And he says, this still happens to me. Louis Vuitton copies my stuff. He doesn't say stuff. He says Louis Vuitton copies my stuff every day, and that's something that he has to deal with. And so he gives him really good advice as well. At the end of the day, no one is even eliminated on this episode. What happens is after they give that feedback, Kirby goes to say, this is the hard part, and I mean, regardless of what happens here today, you guys are great designers. I admire you, da-da-da-da. And it's almost like he's supposed to be scripted to say that they are going home, and he can't bring himself to say that. He can't bring himself to say anything negative because he really does appreciate their work, and he thinks that their work is forward looking and forward thinking, and that it's innovative. And he really likes that. He really enjoys that about looking at their work. And he feels that it is streetwear, which it is. So, but he can't bring himself to eliminate them. And so Alexa kind of steps in, and the judges regroup, and you can hear someone, it's unclear if it's Tan or Jason, but you can hear someone say, it's got to be Farai and Kiki. It's got to be Farai and Kiki that go home. And Kirby's like, yo, this is some bull. Like, this is crazy right now. And so he literally walks off set. He's like, I can't do this. He walks off. And the rest of the judges kind of walk off with him as well. And that's how the episode ends. There's no true elimination during that episode. And so that kind of leads us into episode 5. We're going to see what happens on that episode in just a moment. Again, thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you on part 2.